Hi, Emma. Thanks very much for joining us today on the podcast.
Morning.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Let people know who you are and what you do, etc.
Yeah, so my name's Emma. I'm here to talk about, I guess, the Somerset Suicide Bereavement Support Service. So I'm the manager. We call it SSBSS because it's a bit of a lot of words. So yeah, I'm the manager of the SSBSS service.
Amazing. And how long have you been doing that for?
You took the words out of my mouth.
Is that your question? I started as a volunteer, I think it was about 8 years ago, and then I've been the manager for about 2.5 years now. So yeah, quite a long time.
And how long has it existed for?
We've been going over 12 years now. We were one of the original funded by suicide bereavement post-vention projects funded by public health actually in the country. I think it was us and Cornwall and another one. And now, thankfully, there's one in sadly, there's almost one in every county across England.
And why did you get involved?
Why did I get involved? Yeah, well, 10 years ago, I relocated from London with my family. My previous career was working for many years at a charity called Missing People's. Background working with traumatic loss, I guess, and mental health. Came to Somerset and volunteered, change of career, came to Somerset, volunteered, looked at my skills, but also what I'm passionate about, personal experiences I've got, and kind of all brought that together and came across our project, and kind of that's where I started.
Do you want to tell people about what the project actually does?
So we come under the suicide prevention from NHS England. So the funding and the concept is around suicide prevention. So suicide post-vention bereavement sits under the suicide prevention because it's recognised as a very unique form of loss. And we're a specialist service that offers support for anybody 14 and above who has experienced a loss by suicide, and that can be it's anyone affected really, so it doesn't have to be a close family member, it can be anybody, so it can be a member of the public, it can be through your profession, so for professionals that are impacted, and obviously families and loved ones, so anybody 14 up who's been affected at any point. So if you've as a child, if you'd lost a parent to suicide but had never had support and are now, say, in your 50s or 60s, you can come into the service, or if it's last week or yesterday, you can come into the service. And we offer a range of support. So in the early days, when somebody's very newly bereaved, we bring them into the service and offer kind of one-to-one emotional support. So it's either from somebody who's got their own lived experience, who will work from a peer point of view. So we have volunteers and paid staff who work from that perspective. And then later down the line, we have specialist counselling services as well. But we also have wonderful peer groups that are led by people with their own lived experience across the county. And we have events. Like last night, we had our annual Say My Name gathering at St Mary's in Bridgewater, so I'm a little bit croaky today because it was a late lots of talking evening, which is a beautiful way to bring people together for connection, just to be in a room with each other, even if people don't speak or want to share, just actually sitting alongside and knowing that people in that room will understand the loss that they're going through. So the groups and the events are really important, and we join Walk for a Life every year in September for World Suicide Prevention Day, and then in December we always have Say My Name. So I think this is our 4th year doing it now. Yeah, beautiful evening. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. And we also have volunteer opportunities, so people that are further down the road in their grief who actually would like to help others in the early stages. There's different volunteer roles that we have, which is absolutely wonderful as well. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without all our wonderful volunteers.
So how many people are in your team, in the sense of that are paid staff that are part of your team?
Not many. There's myself, Liz and Hayley are all part-time, so I work part-time as well, managing the service. So there's 3 of us in the core team, and between us we cover everything I've just mentioned really. So we cover the week between us, and we also answer the help. We have a helpline people ring as well. And then we have 3 volunteer buddies, 2 people that help facilitate peer groups, and then we have a team of contracted counsellors who are all experienced counsellors that have got background working with loss, such as suicide loss or traumatic loss.
Wow, that's quite incredible really, isn't it? Do you find that the service is getting busier and busier?
Sadly, it is. And I don't know, someone asked me recently, is that because there's more suicides, or is that because people are more aware of us and coming to us sooner? And it's hard to know. I'm not going to kind of speculate on that. I've got my feelings on it. But we do work in partnership with Avon and Somerset Police. We do something called real-time, I have to remember all the acronyms, real-time suicide surveillance. So when there's a suspected suicide and the police are obviously involved and they meet the next of kin, they will ask them if they want support from a specialist service. And if they agree, their details come via public health to our service, and our team, me and my team, can then reach out. And that's really important because it means in those early hours and days when someone's first bereaved and in the absolute shock and trauma, even if they're not ready for support, of course, they know we're there. So we make contact, we can send information. So sometimes that's a lot about practical support through all the practical issues that challenges somebody might be dealing with. And then usually once someone's kind of past the funeral, that might be when they start accessing our support. So that is a good way for people to find out about us sooner. GPs often refer to us as well. But I definitely feel this year we have had constant referrals. So yeah, the need has been very high this year.
And how many clients do you typically see a year?
It's hard. I haven't got the stats offhand, but what I did do the day before yesterday, actually, just because I'm reviewing the year to send it out to everyone in the team as we come to the end. We provided, I think, over 700 one-to-one support sessions this 1st of January to 1st of December, about 450 counselling sessions. And then we had all the peer groups. So in terms of kind of numbers, I can't give a kind of accurate reflection of that off the top of my head. But and lots of people do come back into the service as well.
Of
So we'll
course,
have.
yeah.
So if somebody comes to us in those early days and weeks after they've lost someone to suicide, they may then come back a year later when the inquest is happening, or when it's anniversaries, or they have other losses, or something else comes up in their life. But we also, like last night at the Say My Name event, it's heartbreaking and beautiful to see everybody there kind of lighting candles and saying their loved ones' names and coming together and remembering. But some people have been coming to our groups and events for many years. One lady last night, one person last night, it was 8 years. So.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it's just that recognition that grief doesn't go away. Very often there's this thing that I think, oh, come on, it was a couple of years ago, or come on, it was 8 years ago, or whatever, but it doesn't. And I think particularly if it's your child, or, I think that's when, we see it in the work that we do as well. People have this amazing, a lot of society has this amazing kind of diagnosis that we all should be over things in a short period of time. And it just doesn't occur like that. It's not like that at all.
No, and if someone's not had any significant loss or grief in their life before, it really kind of floors them in lots of ways, like the realization of how it manifests physically and the impact on friendships. So there's all the secondary losses, as time goes at the beginning when someone dies. I guess with all losses, but particularly this kind of loss, perhaps everybody's rallying round and there's a lot of people around. But as the weeks and months go on, people kind of disappear, and some people find it so incredibly hard to talk about suicide or be around somebody that's bereaved by suicide. So there's isolation and loneliness, and like you say, it's not something that is linear and goes through like the 5 stages of grief and we're done and let's move on.
No.
Certainly
And I
not.
think there's still a lot of shame around suicide, isn't there, where people don't understand the process of why somebody would take their own life, and that ability to be able to see through that and recognise that there's nothing shameful about somebody choosing to end their life. But sadly, it does feel like that.
Well, there's amazing work being done across the country and across our county to reduce kind of the shame and the stigma, but it still exists, doesn't it? And it's people, and all the kind of hundreds of people I've supported over the years, the common themes of like having to find a kind of your own narrative, your own story. Because when people say to you, for instance, if you're a parent, how many children have you got? And one of your children has died, then, and how did they die? And all those questions. And there are people, sadly, who want to know the details. So sometimes people will be ask quite inappropriate questions. It still takes me by surprise the things people will ask of people who have lost someone to suicide,
It's
wanting
probably
to know.
naivety, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But I think the shame and the stigma and the shame that might come from that is a really sticky, horrible, powerful emotion that people can really, really struggle with. And that's why it's really important that you can meet others, sit in groups or attend events or whatever it is. I'll go online, there's some amazing online communities as well, but kind of hearing other people's experience to know that that's normal
Yeah.
in these situations.
No, that makes a lot of sense. You touched on funding earlier on, and are you finding that funding for your charity is okay to gain, or are you struggling? Is it easy? Bearing in mind that, like you said, suicide's becoming very much a key focus, I suppose, in schools, colleges, but also in the news. You hear about it quite a lot now. So do you find it a little bit easier than you did 8 years ago, 12 years
I
ago?
think I think when the project started, because it was obviously suicide existed, but I think because we're funded by Public Health, but we sit in the Charity Mind in
Yeah.
Somerset, so they're our managers. They look after
Okay.
us as a team. The funding each year is, we wait each year to know if we'll get the funding. Like many projects, like yourselves, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Everybody across, services are being cut and lost all the time. So each year, me and my team are kind of waiting to know if we'll have the funding as we are now. We don't get, it's not increased. We don't get any more than we get. So there's limitations to what we can do. I think the 5-year strategy that came down from NHS England Public Health has post-vention suicide bereavement as part of the suicide prevention strategy. So one of the strands. So
Yeah.
for the next couple of years, so we're already 2-3 years into that, 2 years I think. So for the next 2 or 3 years, there's a commitment to the need for a post-vention service like ours. After that, who knows? Who knows where the direction will go in terms of is it seen as an important service?
Yeah. Of course.
It's interesting because I sit on the board in Parliament for basically to prevent. They looked at and they've just released an ISO through British standards about employers, what they can do to try and prevent suicide. But it's if you think about it, I don't know if you heard the news yesterday, but for the investigation around the abuse cases where gangs of people are basically, messing with young girls and various other things. They've given them an £85 million budget to do the investigation. It's an enormous amount of money. And then people like you struggling to get to get your budget together. It just seems crazy, really.
Long-term implications of what you've just mentioned, for example, and the need of long-term care, but for traumatic loss, suicide loss, the devastation and the impact isn't something that goes away after six sessions of counselling or 12 sessions of counselling. Of course it isn't. Like you said earlier, Angie, this is a lifetime, especially for parents. And everybody, but parents, mums of children of any age that have taken their life. This is the rest of their lives. Their lives have been blown apart and changed forever. And people lose their jobs, their identities, friends. They're living with trauma. That's what they're living with. And actually, that isn't something that 6 sessions of counselling is going to touch. No. Not even going to touch it, sadly.
And I think that when they talk about prevention, and I think prevention is something that is vitally important in our work. But there's another side to that is if somebody is choosing to take their own life, they will take their own life. And I think sometimes it's a spur of a moment decision that people don't understand why they've done it at that time. But either way, it is their choice to do that. And there shouldn't be any shame in that. No, there's no shame in that. But also it's the sudden impact that has on those around you. And like you said, parents in particular, and then everybody else, it's the ripple effect.
I mean, they say, I remember, a few years ago, my old manager saying to me, I think it's like 130 people thereabouts that are impacted by every suicide. So it's obviously the inner circle who are impacted, but then as it goes further out, there's all the professionals that might have been involved. We're humans doing this work, so we're all impacted, aren't we? But there's also the people that in your community, schools, colleges, workplaces, it's vast, the ripples, much more than probably there's an awareness of.
It's something that I've always fancied doing, even before what happened in my family, is to have that, it's easy to have mental health support in workplaces, but very often the people that commit suicide don't go for the mental health support. It's been recognised. And also people don't know what to do when somebody comes up and says, I feel like I want to take my life.
Right, it's suicide in all of its aspects. When someone's suicidal or after somebody's taken their life, the people impacted, it's not a part of society that people want to go towards, understandably. The same, I was reflecting on this with a member of my team yesterday and how that feels for us, for example, in the team. People are afraid of it, understandably. But I think in terms of there's some great training out there to kind of skill people up and give people the confidence, because I know the common thing, isn't it, people feel that, if I mention the word suicide, that person might go and take their own life. But we know that isn't true. But there's a fear there that people go, I can't put it into someone's mind. Or for the bereaved, I often hear people say, like, people don't talk to them about their loved one anymore, they don't say their name anymore, and when asked they say, well, we don't want to upset you, we don't, as though they're not thinking about them all the time or upset anyway. We're interesting things, humans, aren't we? How we because it's all, it's about people probably there's a lot of fear there, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So obviously this time of year, I imagine, it can be quite difficult for people. So do you have, additional support groups and things?
Well, we have our usual, we've had two events in the last couple of weeks. So I with my volunteers, I do a peer walking group. So last week we went out. Last Thursday we went to see the Starling Commemoration. So I'm a big,
nice.
Personally and professionally, I love incorporating nature, and I think grief and nature, as I'm sure you know, is just a beautiful combination. So there was so we had some people come for the first time last week, and so we went down to Ham Wall and watched the commemorations, and they came out and showed us and did their beautiful dance, and so that was lovely to be able to do that. And we do the peer walking group every 2 months, and I think that reaches perhaps people that wouldn't want to go to counselling or sit in a room in a circle, kind of.
Yeah.
And then, like, we had our event last night, which obviously, like you say, Mike, this time of year is even more hard if you're grieving. And you can't escape it, can you? It's everywhere. And for people that this is their first Christmas, wow, that's just,
even
unimaginable.
more challenging, isn't it?
Yeah,
Have you
there's
noticed?
no escape.
No, that's it. Have you noticed lots of the companies now that send out newsletters, they quite often send a newsletter out that says, on Mother's Day, on Father's Day, that kind of thing. It comes up and says, if you don't want to receive emails from us about Father's Day, Mother's Day, that kind of thing, we will, click this button and we won't email you. We'll just email you about everything else. I must admit, I've seen that more and more recently, and I think that's something that's really good. Have you found any other things that other organisations do that kind of help people?
I haven't come across that, actually, but it does sound like a good idea. No, it sounds like a really good idea that you can opt out of things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think workplaces and bereavement, especially this kind of loss, it's a real challenge, isn't it? And it's such a mixed response. From sometimes I hear employers that go above and beyond, really want to keep the person in their role and support them and get counselling in place. Things like, do you want your colleagues to know? Because it's that going back into the workplace, isn't it, afterwards?
It is, yeah.
So you'll hear really wonderful examples of good practice from some employers, and then others that don't really understand it at all. And after you've had your few weeks bereavement leave, it's kind of back to normal.
Yeah,
normal
I think
way of being.
You touched on it earlier. I think it's nobody knows what the right answer is. And it's really difficult because you don't know what to say, what not to say. Yeah, it's really difficult.
I think what always sticks with me is something I've heard from someone I've supported, a mum who's a wonderful volunteer of ours now, but often would say, all I want is kindness. All someone has to be is kind. So I think that's a really powerful kind of word to remind people of it, even if you say the kind of something that feels a bit clunky or or you don't know what to say. Say, I don't have the words. It must be incredibly hard for you. But just kindness, just being there, just letting someone know you're thinking of them, because grief, especially suicide loss, is such a lonely, isolating place.
Yeah, for sure.
I suppose what happens is that their lives carry on, but yours doesn't, if you see what I'm saying.
It changes, it goes off in a whole new direction, as you know, Angie, but it's never the same, isn't it? And I think that's one of the most incredibly hard realizations, is that people want you to go back to who you were before, but how can you? Your world has
There's a piece of
changed
you missing.
forever.
Yeah.
You can't go back, it's only forward. And actually also that need almost by society and some people around people is to move on. That word move on, I can't bear that word move on either, because actually that can be quite horrendous for people, because it isn't about letting go and moving on and forgetting. That is quite an older fashioned view of grief, isn't it? And there was reasons for it. We changed how we grieved after the wars, didn't we? Because it was so vast. People couldn't sit in their grief. It would have destroyed communities. So we changed, and it became something we didn't talk about. It became very hidden. But actually, I do feel we are moving towards a society that does talk about grief more and does go towards grief more, which is a good thing. It's a healthy thing, because it happens to us all, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is not you not being ashamed of your own grief. I mean, I'm not. That's it. This is who I am. But it's about allowing people to be who they are.
Yeah. And for lots of people who go through all types of traumatic loss, suicide or murder, or, all of those, any losses really, doing something, whether that be volunteering or creating charities or, like all the different things that happen across society, is really important, because it's a channel. It's a channel for grief, for love, for energy.
Yeah.
It's about making a difference, and
I met
actually
this really lovely
being out, like you say, being able to be who you are.
I met this really nice couple yesterday whose son died of cancer in 2020, I think it was. I might have got that date wrong. But what they did was they set up a holiday homes for people who need a break.
That's
and I
clever.
thought, what a lovely thing to do, and they've got no money themselves. They're not wealthy people. They've fundraised to get all of these things together. And you think it is a distraction from what you're doing or what you're feeling. And the dad said that for him, has been his way of grieving. Mum still can hardly talk about it. She's still...
I think men and women do grieve differently, don't they? There was something on Lorraine, I think, the other morning. They had the doctor and an actor talking about that, which I thought was really good, to have two men talking about grief, because we find that challenging. Men will come into the service, know they need support and know it'd be helpful, but just can't. They just can't do it. So finding ways, that's why the walking is good. This last summer, we had one of our volunteers, who's a dad. He organised and led a pilgrimage, and we walked kind of from Wells and out across to Croscombe and then back up to Wells, a group of us. And he did it as a pilgrimage, like a spiritual, but it was really gently, beautifully done, with points where we stopped and did reflections and spent time alone and things like that. I think kind of probably reach out to other people, maybe men more, the walking.
And I think that's another thing. I mean, we're a counselling service, but on top of that, now we do a lot of other things: coffee and chats, drumming. We'll go and do talks. It just allows people to express themselves in a different way, because like that, men don't always want to chat. They kind of want to not talk about it.
And talking is brilliant. And, I'm a counsellor as well, so obviously that's my profession. But I do think there's something about doing the creative side of it, drumming, music, expression of sound, in the last year, we're part of a national movement, a Speak Their Name it's called, which is memorial quilts. And we're very proud of our first panel. It's, witnessing everybody working on those squares, and then the group of amazing women who all came together to then pull it in, all the individual precious squares into the quilt. Just witnessing that and what it meant for them was just, it took me by surprise. It took us by surprise how powerful that was. So actually, for those I think things like you say, Angie, those type of things bring together people in a way, and they process for us in a different way, don't they? It's not always not just the talking.
Yeah, and I thought that was a brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant idea.
It's
And I think,
lovely.
yeah, it's beautiful. The quilt was beautiful as well. It was really beautiful to see. It was amazing. They did an amazing job, and it's still happening, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so at the moment, it went to Parliament as part of the national Speak Their Name movement in September, which was just phenomenal to see them all. It's heartbreaking, but amazing and powerful. Again, to get conversations going with MPs, I guess, because that's where it was, around suicide and the stigma. And then last night we've got it up in St Mary's in Bridgewater, so it's there till the 20th. So if people are around, they can go and look at it. It looks wonderful. We're very proud of it. It's very precious. And my volunteer Sheila, who leads it for us, we wouldn't have been able to do it without her and her wonderfulness and creativity and her passion that is driven from her own loss. But was there last night, and it was the first time we were able to share it with everyone, which was wonderful. And some of the people there had created squares as well, which is
That's really nice.
So how could somebody create a square but doesn't necessarily want to be part of sitting with a group of other people?
So we have a little pack we send out. So we've got somebody could email us, contact the service, and we send out a little pack that's got the little square ready for you and some ideas. And Sheila also created this. I don't know and never have. And my concern was that people go, oh God, I can't sew. But actually what we've realised and what people have realised is you don't need to sew it. Some people have used fabric pens. People have done felting. You can do whatever you like. You can iron things on, you can do all sorts. You can do anything you want to do. And people have used material that belonged to their loved ones, words that were important to loved ones, quotes. You can even, we've got paper where you can iron on someone's image and then we can put that on the square for you, or you could do it at home. And then lots of people haven't come to our groups to do it. They've done it at home and then posted them in. So they come these precious little packages that we just love opening, and they're all stored safely. And Sheila's even got some white gloves to handle it all beautifully, because obviously it's very precious. And next year, hopefully, it'll be going to different places across the country with all the other quilts.
Nice.
They're growing, sadly. The number is growing. We'd rather they weren't, but that's the reality.
So how do you do anything in the community about the impact of suicide, in the sense that, like, educating people about the impact that it does have in a preventional way?
About suicide loss, do you mean? Sorry, Angie, it cut out a little bit.
It did, didn't it? That was my...
So we've got very limited resources for that. We do try. We have done, a couple of years ago, we did over a year, we did training for NHS professionals that worked. So myself and a colleague went in and did half-day training around kind of working with suicide loss and what makes it different to other forms of loss. And I've done that for colleges and things like that. So we do it on a small scale. We try and resource and share information where we can, but we just don't have the resource to do that on any bigger scale, sadly. I'd love to be able to do it. I'd love to be able to run more training. We often get asked to provide training on suicide loss, and we will try where we can. We do. I mean, I'll always guide people or support people. So over the last few years, sadly, we've had young people suicides in colleges and schools, for instance. And I mean, the educational psychologists and Samaritans go in right away, and there's post-vention policies across the county, which is amazing to know. And then we've also gone in at times and supported teachers and professionals and guided them and done drop-ins, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that as well. I've had to go into schools and stuff like that in my other life. And also, I mean, before, I remember when I worked in the mental health service, in the acute service, it was like, when one of your clients passes, it's really, really tough as a professional, because you do all that stuff, like, what did I do wrong? Could I have done better? Blah, blah, blah. All of that goes through your head and probably sits there for months and months and months.
think one of the things that really stood out for me when I did the training with the NHS professionals was a lot of that. And people didn't feel that they were entitled to grieve. They thought it was only for the families. And obviously there's a phrase for it, it's disenfranchised grief. And actually when I shared that it was actually a thing that existed, people were like, wow. But it was really emotional. People were really emotional because some people had many suicides, long careers in mental health. Had many suicides, and we're aware that may make people cautious about reaching out for help from a service like ours, that they'll think, well, it's for families or loved ones and partners and husbands, wives, children, but we are also here for professionals, and we can do it very confidentially. It's safe and it's confidential. It's
And
a
I
challenge.
think that's really important to hear, because I know certainly, I've been in the profession for a very long time. That certainly was never told to anybody, to my knowledge. People were not aware that there is a service out there that could support the professionals as well as the...
What I've been trying to do, me and the team, in the last year or so, is attend different wider mental health meetings. So where there's multi-agency meetings, and we go and do little presentations about what we do, not just for the clients, in the hope that they'll remember us. And sometimes if there's EAP type things, there's one in Somerset for professionals, isn't there? I can't remember the name of it. They'll refer through to us. So we do take third-party referrals if they're appropriate. Yeah.
I think some of the language that comes from it, though, people do not understand. They don't, like, the people wouldn't know what EAP means. Did you not hear that?
No, sorry, it's going in that employee assisted program. So yeah, so some companies have them, don't they? But then again, the counsellors don't necessarily have experience of working with suicide loss, so it might not be the right thing for the person.
And it was something that we did. I send the newsletter out to all of our counsellors in the charity, so that they are aware it's there every month. It's there. They've got it in the forefront, so that they know that that's actually still out there. And I think it's really important that we educate everybody with that, including schools, colleges, stuff like that.
So you get our newsletter, obviously, because our newsletter's grown, and I've got a wonderful member of my team that does all the design and stuff. She's very creative and professional and very good at all that. So, but everybody contributes, and people sending in their poems and their art and all those wonderful things. The feedback we've had about that, and it's really generating a wonderful kind of wave of other people wanting to share in all different ways, which is beautiful to see. So the newsletter's kind of grown in itself to be a community of itself. So we send it out to over 800 people. A lot of those are professionals, colleges, undertakers, anybody that might, anybody over the years that we've gathered up that's interested, as well as all the people who have been through the service. So that's what I like to see the project as a community. And I think the people, many people have been with us, alongside us and with us for quite a few years now.
What comes in my head is all that material that people are sharing. Surely it could be published.
Yeah, or last week or the week before, a group of people were talking about doing art, not just art, but an exhibition. What do you call it? My brain's gone blank. But with all, so it'd be lovely to do an exhibition, not just of the quilt, but of all the contributions that people have shared. Yeah.
Many years ago, we did a book on addiction, and we had it actually printed. In fact, I found a copy of it the other day when I was rooting through some stuff. And it had quite an impact on the community, the addiction or recovery, both communities. And I think, you could have a bestseller there if you thought about that one.
Yeah, that's nice. I'll jot it down, Angie. It's a good idea. Written it down. There's so many things I'd love to do. If we had resource and money to do so much, it'd be
Anybody
wonderful.
that's watching this that might want to sponsor that, a book, there is people out there that will give money and will support things like that, and it's definitely worth it. It's like we did. We had 46,000 cards made for suicide prevention, and funnily enough, I went over to Hinkley Point yesterday, and they'd had 1,000 cards, and they said every single person that supports somebody at Hinkley, they give them one of these cards. And it's like, and every single person carries them with them at all times. And I thought, wow, you don't realize that. And you go in shops and they go, oh, Angie, have you got any more cards? Or, those bits and pieces. Rob and I, he used to be a trustee, he does grants now, but he and I paid for those to get done. And it was like he did a run and I just gave some money. So I was quite fortunate that I could do that. But I mean, the impact that had.
There's something about having something you can carry, isn't there? We've had some little cards. Where at the moment, one of my team who works with young people she's been putting together a really amazing kind of box with all different creative things in it that we can then give to young people and work with them as we do the kind of therapeutic work with them, which is wonderful. So that those ideas, like your cards, I had some of your cards because I took them to the Walk for a Life. Yeah, people like to take them, don't they? Pop them.
Yeah, they do, because it's like you can slip it in your pocket, or you slip it in your bag or your wallet or whatever you want. It's quite handy.
No, I was going to say, so if there's anyone listening that is interested in perhaps volunteering for your charity, or perhaps they're thinking, I could do with some help, what's the best way of them getting in contact with you?
So if you go, the easiest way is if you go on the Mind in Somerset website, we have our own section on there for the Somerset Suicide Bereavement Service, or if you Google us, we have a whole section on there that has a contact page and it talks about all the different things we offer. There's some good resources on there as well. So that's through the www.mindinsomerset.org.uk, or we have a helpline for the Somerset Suicide Bereavement Service, and we have an email, bereaved@mindinsomerset.org.uk, which myself or one of the team respond to, so that if people want to contact us. All the volunteering opportunities will be up on the Mind in Somerset website. I think next year we're hoping to recruit some more buddies, so they're bereavement buddies, so people with lived experience who are kind of post 2 years plus, and have had their own support and are in a place where they can comfortably and safely support others. So that's one-to-one support from a peer, sharing lived experience with a peer, which is, we find a lot of people get a lot from. So we will be recruiting for those in the new year, hopefully.
Brilliant.
So what are you doing for Christmas?
Me or the project?
You.
Me. I'm looking forward to. I was just before I came on here, I was just reflecting that for me, that doing our event last night. So each year I get to the event, it's work, get to the event, kind of all, you're holding all that, everything you're holding in. I do the event, I come down, I'm like, whoo, and I have a real come down then, because although I'm working until the 23rd, it's kind of petering down now. So for me, I'm looking forward to, I'm going to be with my family and my dog at home, and lots of time outside and in nature, and just doing some lovely self-care stuff because it's much needed. And I'm encouraging my team to do that as well. It's been a heavy year.
I think, it's a tough job. It's don't care what anybody said. It is a tough job, whatever you do in mental health, but in particular, dealing with suicide is a tough.
Yeah. It's working with trauma, working in mental health, working in addiction, like all of it. It takes its toll, and keeping ourselves well is a key part of kind of providing a great service, isn't it? Because if we're all burnt out, and I was talking about it yesterday with one of my team, if your bucket's full, then how can you help others? So it's vital, it's ethical. So it's I'm looking forward to some time off. Although we don't fully close, we do take referrals from the police throughout. So if somebody is bereaved over that time, the police can refer to us, and we will make contacts. But we don't deal with like third parties or longer term. But it's only kind of newly bereaved people that we'll still reach out to.
Brilliant. Great job. Well done.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting. Thank
you for both of you, and Angie for you, and what you've shared. That's what I want to say.
We shall leave it there. Thank you very much.
All right, lovely to meet you both.
Thank you. We'll speak to you again. Thanks, Emma.
Bye.